Hey guys, welcome back. So I just got back from my trip from Asia. I'm feeling so much better, so much lighter. Don't know if you can tell. I feel like I wear my feelings on my face so you can see if I'm not. I think for most people, you can kind of tell when people are really exhausted, or really tired, or about to burn out. And that's what I want to talk about today. The burnout and resetting cycle that I've been stuck in and how I'm finally putting my foot down to break out of this cycle, because if we continue down this cycle of burnout and resetting and burnout resetting and not really addressing the problem at hand, which is what I've been doing for a long time. We're going to talk about later. It's all about prioritizing. I've been prioritizing work over everything in my life, but now it's time to change that up. Before we get into anything else, I want to first talk about what burnout is, how it manifests, and where it came from, where the term came from. And right before we get started, thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know they're my favorite online learning community. They are currently offering the first 500 people a 2-month premium membership trial. So if this is something you're interested in, stay till the end, and I'll talk about that more at the end of the video. So, burnout. This term was coined by Dr. Herbert Freudenberg. I hope I'm saying that, Freudenberger. And he used burnout as an analogy to a burned out building, like the inside of a burned out building, outside looking in. A person who's burnt out will look like a person, and they're put together and they're working and they're functioning and they're walking and they're there. But the inside is like a burnt out building where everything is basically desolated and charred and black and not okay. So again, like a burnt out house, someone who's actually burnt out may not actually seem like that from the outside, but on the inside, this is one of his quotes: their inner resources are consumed as if by fire, leaving a great emptiness inside. A great gaping emptiness and void. Does this sound familiar? Burnout really is a response to stress, it's a response to frustration, it's a response to a demand that an individual may make upon themselves in terms of a requirement for perfectionism or drive. And if when I'm saying all of this, you guys are like, Rowena, I can relate. This is something that I've been going through. This is something that's been pressing on my chest and my body, and it's something that I've been trying to shake, but I can't. Good news is you're not alone. A lot of Americans are going through this as well. A lot of people, I think people in the workforce are significantly more stressed these days than were before, probably because of technology, because everyone is so connected these days, for better or for worse, that you are expected to be on your phone after working hours, and you're expected to work over weekends, you're expected to work after work. And I think there's like a 27% of Americans regularly work between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. and 29% regularly work on weekends. And hello, it's me, and it's probably a lot of you guys too, because we're all overachievers and we want to do things. Yeah, so with all of this, to really go back to my wake-up call, I'm gonna read a few things. The risk of burning out: being tired and lacking engagement in your work is no fun, but the risk of burnout runs even deeper. Over time, the effect of burnout can lead to memory, attention, and emotional problems. One study also found burnout sufferers may have accelerated thinning in the brain's frontal cortex, a part that's essential for cognitive functioning. This section of the brain thins as part of natural aging process, but the thinning effect was more pronounced in participants who experienced burnout. You know, I feel like from an emotional perspective, we all know that it's not good, but from like a scientific bodily, what it's doing to your body, because I feel like for me, like if I can't see it, I'm just like, okay, like nothing's happening in my brain, like, you know, I don't need to think about that. But reading that was a really big wake-up call for me to know that yes, I know emotionally and physically I haven't felt the best, but knowing that it's altering my brain, that's like, okay, I think I should probably take much better care of myself. So moving on to a higher and brighter and more positive note, because I feel like that was very like meh. Burnout is something that is universal. It's something that could happen to anyone, to you, to me, to our family, to our friends, maybe even to our pets. I don't know. Do our pets go through burnout? I don't know. Overcoming burnout, it's something that is doable, and it's something that doesn't require as much I think you just need to sit yourself down and be brutally honest with yourself and carve out some time for yourself to relax and to unplug and to not do the things that you've been consuming yourself with. So I want to walk you guys through how I got to Asia, how I got to Taiwan, what my trip was like, and how the whole process really was a big wake-up call for me. The more that I was conscious about what I was thinking of, what I was prioritizing, what I was putting my focus on, and what I allowed to consume me and what I allowed to stress me out, it really helped showed me that you need to chill out and you need to relax. I felt like I've been using work as a kind of like a little escape to not have to think about the deeper things, because I think when we go through life, if you're more self-aware, you do think about things cross your mind, you're like, okay, I need to think about this deeper. But you know, if you're busy, if you are not in the mood, you just kind of get stuck in that shallow depth of like, okay, I thought about this superficially, or like maybe even a little more beyond superficial, but it's like it goes so deep and it's uncomfortable and you don't want to go there, and it takes a lot of courage and self-awareness and just, I don't know, it's not easy to go deep. It's easy to run away and it's easier to avoid. So without further ado, let's talk about my trip to Asia. So if you guys watched my last video, I'll link it right here. That one was all about nourishing. My mom came to visit me in New York before I left, and she cooked for me. We cooked together, and that was really about taking a step back to really make time for myself and to really take a step back from everything that I've been doing so that I can recover from being sick. Maybe get sick once every 2 years, but the beginning of this year in January and in March, I got sick twice back to back. So that to me was like, okay, something's happening. You need to take care of yourself. When I was on the Uber going to the airport, I realized I forgot both chargers to both laptops. And for those of you who do deal with anxiety, you can relate when I say I felt like there's a sumo man sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to do. I was like, why did this happen? I already didn't post a video for 2 weeks. I was planning to edit for 16 hours because from New York to Taiwan, 16-hour flight. Now I can't. What am I gonna do? Thankfully, it happened pretty quickly in my head where I was like, okay, it's a sign from the universe. Just calm down, just breathe, everything will be okay. You should use that time instead to focus on yourself, focus on reconnecting with the things that are important to you. And I brought this book that was gifted to me by a friend, Developing the Leader Within You, and oh my lord, it was everything that I needed. Alright, I showed this in my video last week, but I'm just going to read it again. Margins is the space that exists between our load and our limits. It is the amount allowed beyond that which is needed. It is something held in reserve for contingencies or unanticipated situations. Margins is the gap between rest and exhaustion, the space between breathing freely and suffocating. Margin is the opposite of overload. Below that, people who keep burning the candle at both ends aren't as bright as they think they are. Yeah, like I said in last week's video, I thought I was as bright as the sun. Oh, and the next page is the greater the responsibilities you have as a leader, the more responsible you are to create margin in your life. This, again, was the universe saying you need to take better care of yourself. If you want to do all that you want to do, if you want to continue doing what you've been doing, if you want to continue pushing yourself as hard as you have, you can, but you need to really carve out time for yourself and create margins in your life where you won't be in this perpetual cycle of burnout and resetting. What the book suggests is you need to carve out at least 3 hours every day in your schedule and do you. Read books, meditate, journal, free write, whatever it is. Carve out some time for you to just be by yourself and for you to have time to think and for you to have time to breathe, to go beyond that shallow thinking, answering, and like really, really go deep. So that was on the airplane. I know it's nothing groundbreaking. I know these are all things that you and I know already. I really believe like everything happens for a reason. For me to pick up a book, I have so many books lying around in my apartment. Out of nowhere, randomly, one day I'll wake up and be like, this is it. This is the book that I'm gonna read, or this is the book that I need to read. And when I do read it, I'm like, whoa, it couldn't have come at a better time because this is exactly what I need to hear. Also going along with honoring the timing of things and just being aware and present enough for you to be able to catch these little signals from within you to be like, this book or like that thing, or like talk to this friend, or like do that thing. After that, got off the plane, went straight to Taichung, which is the middle part of Taiwan, to see my dad's side of the family, because I went back to Taiwan for like the ancestral tomb sweeping festival, Qingmingjie, where you basically pay respects to your ancestors. The plan initially was to publish that perspectives video that weekend that I got into Taiwan. It's been so long I haven't posted, so I felt like I wanted to. It's not that I need to, but I myself want to post it, because to me, like, this is my job. I haven't seen my aunts in so long. I haven't hung out with my cousins on my dad's side in so long. So when I got there was like a little bit of a tugging and pulling of, I feel like I should be doing my video, but I'm not going to, but I still feel like I should. After the sequence of events that have happened on my way to the airport, on the airplane, reading this book, all of these things, I was like, you know what? Prioritizing. What are you going to prioritize? Why are you back in Taiwan? Why are you here in Taichung? When I reminded myself of all of that, it became so clear to me that the video can wait. I can do that when I get back to Taipei with my dad. I can just focus my time and energy right now with being with my family and just enjoying time with my family. Realizing that all of my stress, realizing that all of my problems were self-inflicted and were things that I could control by prioritizing what's important, by slowly trying to gracefully let go, and by reminding myself it's important to take care of yourself, it's important to take care of your mental health, your physical health, your whole body in general. Got back to Taipei with my dad, and we just, did things that I don't really do when I'm in New York. I don't really go out, and I don't really allow myself to go, and I don't know, it sounds like weird and silly when I say this, but like, yeah, I just work all the time when I'm here. And so that was really great for me to disconnect, and then I can come home and I can work on videos and I can edit videos. So anyway, staying with grandparents or just seeing people who are a lot older than you, seeing the things that they go through, seeing their current state. So my grandpa's, I think he's past 90s. He's kind of there, not really there. Doesn't really remember anyone. He can be kind of wild at night. He'll, just say things that are incoherent, and he'll kind of be stuck in these loops and just say these things that don't make any sense. But he's like very like, can you tell me about this thing? And you're like, but what, Grandpa? I don't know. What do you want? And so just by being there and seeing him like that, made me realize when we're 80, 90, 100, when we're that old and we're kind of not really there, are the things we matter about these days gonna matter then? No, like none of it's gonna matter. And this isn't to say that like we shouldn't think about the things that we're thinking about. I think there's a big difference between stressing over everyday decisions and stressing over life constantly versus just being present and just handling what we need to handle, focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we can't. By seeing my grandpa and by spending a week with him, it was everything that I needed to really like nail to really like have it drilled in my head that focus on prioritizing what's most important, focus on what you can control, and let go of what you can't control. So with all of this, this was in the book, Develop the Leader Within You. They asked a young violinist how she was able to do all that she wants to do and how she's so good at playing the violin. And she's like, before I would get home, I have to do homework, I have to clean my room, I have to do all these things, and then I wouldn't really have time to practice. And instead, I turned it to when I come home, I practice first, and then I do everything else. That is planned neglect, and I think I've been very into this for a long time, where I neglect everything else that isn't work. and I prioritize work above everything else. I'm very conscious and I'm very intentional with the work that I'm doing. You can do meaningful work, but you can still overwork and you can still burn out and you can still stress yourself out when you have meaningful work. Change of scenery is definitely great, but I know change of scenery isn't always possible for all of us. So remember this quote, it's also from Marcus Aurelius: "Nowhere can man find a quieter and more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." So I try to find another quote from him that basically talks about you can do all the traveling you want and you can try to find yourself in all these corners of the world, but you will realize at the end of the day that where you need to go is inward. And sometimes being physically removed from places can help facilitate that looking inwardness of the things that we should be doing on a frequent basis. But we don't need to physically remove ourselves from our environment to be able to do that. We really just need to create margins and make time for us to be alone in our own thoughts and to grow comfortable in the silence within ourselves and to be able to work with that. Yes. What my mom shared with me when she visited me, she basically told me like, hey, I'm so proud of you for all that you've done, for how hard you've been working. I see it, dad sees it, we all see it, our whole family sees it, and it's great. But I want to remind you that you don't need to overcompensate for what you didn't do previously and go to the other extreme of overworking yourself. Like, it's so important to take care of yourself. And when she said that to me, I don't know, like, how do moms know everything that we're going through? I don't feel guilty anymore, but to me, it's a reality that when I was younger, I just, like, I dicked around, dude. Like, I didn't care about the things that I care about now. I wasn't the person that I am now. My priorities were even more out of whack compared to now. So the fact that I'm working as a priority compared to, like, partying and distracting myself and drinking and going to raves, like, that's great. But I think, you know, we can keep inching towards an even beautiful, more brighter future. Spending time with my mom, spending time with my dad, spending time with my grandpa, spending time with my dad's side of family, spending time with myself, carving out time for myself, making margins for myself. Everything that happens, everything that stresses us out, it's all in here. And then if we can change these thoughts, if we can try to give ourselves perspective, if we can try to undo the knots that we've created inside our own heads, we can move so much faster and so much lighter. This trip allowed me to read so much more. I finished the bullet journal method. I started developing the leader within you, and I also started 10% Happier. It's such a good book. I thought it was gonna be about happiness, but it's actually about, I didn't know Dan Harris, I don't really keep up with like mainstream media news. He was a journalist and then he became a news anchor, and just like that process and how intense it is and how much work you need to put in and how much commitment you need to put in to be able to get airtime, and how he went from this person who thought meditation was this like super woo-woo hippie thing you did in a forest, and how it became something that he implemented in his daily life, and that was what made him be 10% happy. With all of that as well, after I finished the bullet journal method, I started looking up courses on Skillshare on people who have done bullet journaling, because I know fundamentally the most important thing with bullet journaling is just content is more important than like all the fluff and all the beautiful things. But to me, it's like I like seeing what other people are doing out there, and I know there's a plethora of free information, and there's so much tutorials and there's so much images on Instagram alone or even on blogs and websites about bullet journaling. But because I already had access to Skillshare, I took a couple of classes and I was like, dude, this is so fascinating to see how people plan and how people figure out how they're going to use their bullet journal. And if you guys aren't familiar with Skillshare, they're an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. A premium membership gives you unlimited access, so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you, whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career. Skillshare is the perfect place to keep learning and to keep thriving and to keep stimulating that brain of yours. So, couple of my favorite classes, there's one with Simon Sinek about speaking, public speaking, how to give better presentations. There's one with Lolo Jones who talks about social media, how to use social media, and how to grow your social media following, specifically on Instagram. And again, the first 500 people to sign up will get a 2-month premium membership trial, and I'll leave the link down below. So with all of that, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. where I will try to do a 5 a.m. morning wake up routine. Okay, bye.